The strangest discovery has recently happened in New Zealand. All sorts of washed up remnants end up being found on a beach, but it's quite a rare find to unearth a steam locomotive buried in the sand. Meet Skunk, one of the country's earliest railway engines, which was thought to be lost to time. But after over a century out in the sun, has unexpectedly been found. Let's answer the obvious questions in today's guide rail. How did it get there? What is the backstory of the engine? And what is the future for it now that it's no longer buried treasure? This rusted relic doesn't look like much now, but we are fortunate that it's still around at all. Believe it or not, this engine started out in 1875 looking like this, a small 3-foot 6-inch gauge tank engine. It is an A-class built by E.W. Mills at the Lion Foundry in Wellington, alongside an identical sister engine, later gaining the names Skunk and Wallaby. A third sister, Opossum, would arrive in October, but the first two were shipped aboard the paddle steamer Luna in July, destined for Foxton. Here they were to work the branch line to North Palmerston, but it wasn't to be that simple. This 25-mile long line had opened 4 years earlier as a wooden railed tramway, which was hardly suitable for the coffee pot style engine that came before, let alone these heavier 040s. The rails would later be replaced with steel, but Skunk, Wallaby and Opossum still proved unsuccessful. It is rumoured that this is how their names were adopted, being smelly, bouncy, and lazing around instead of working in the daylight. Whatever the reason, the trio would soon be disbanded across both the North and South Islands of New Zealand, taking up odd jobs wherever they were needed. Pulling regular trains may have proved too much, but their small wheelbase and small fuel capacity made them ideal contractor locos. Wallaby was sadly disassembled in Sanson just before the turn of the century, whilst Opossum was employed during the construction of Greymouth Harbour, and remained at work on a sawmill tramway until 1952. This engine would later become a static display, and today is thankfully preserved at the Shantytown Heritage Park. Until now, it was believed that this was the earliest surviving example of a New Zealand-built engine. On the 5th of September 2025, work was underway to strengthen the coastal defences at the entrance of the Wanganui River. Known as the Moles, the north side has remained largely intact, but the south mole has deteriorated and become a hazard when accessing the port. Well, it wasn't quite strolling along with a metal detector, but a Mills Albert Limited worker named Brandon found a strange metal shape underneath the sand. A team from SteamRail Wanganui Incorporated was called in, because it was soon concluded that this was Skunk, still sitting around awaiting its next job. How significant that it had only just turned 150 years old. Over its lifetime, the locomotive had been sent as far afield as Auckland and Westport, even being rebuilt with new valve gear. Instead of coupling rods, it was modified so that a central crank powered the rear axle, with chain gear connecting to the front set. In this form in 1907, it was helping with the construction project that had led to its discovery, which was constructing the South Mole coastal barrier. moving rock and tools to the waterfront. After it was complete, the harbour board tried selling Skunk, but with no luck. Instead, the poor engine sat alone on the beach, sitting in a tin shed and awaiting its next calling. All the while, the brutal winds swept the sand dunes, and gradually the engine and shed were buried over exactly where they stood. Upon discovery, thinner metal like the smokebox had eroded away, but the bulk of the locomotive is still recognisable amidst all of the rust. The SteamRail group had only a few days to extract Skunk from its siding, where it had stood for over 100 years. To their amazement, once lifted into the air, they found the rails of the siding still beneath, which had snapped under the loco's weight. A set of points, fragments of the shed, and the engine itself were all soon to be moved to their base at Taupo Key. Over 100 tons of sand was moved, and a sled built for the remains of the engine to be surfed across the beach, and on to its new home. The preservation group was formed in 1989, with the aim of preserving the turntable at Wanganui, but have gone on to restore many historic items of rolling stock, and Skunk is now a most unexpected addition to their collection. Now, naturally, it's safe to say that the engine will never run again. It'll take more than a can of oil to get through that rust. But the best strategy for conservation is still being discussed. With a possum already on static display in Shantytown, it's not necessarily needed to restore Skunk to the same form, but instead to keep what currently remains. In whichever form, go and visit this remarkable survivor for yourself, or support the team by finding out more on their website at SteamRail Wanganui Inc. For an engine with an ill-fated story, thanks must go to Mills Albert Construction for their forethought not to risk damaging the find, and to the council for giving the preservation group time to rescue it from the beach. It is lovely to hear about steam-powered heritage still being unearthed in the current day. If you'd like to hear more about such stories, then subscribe for the Guide Rail series, a whole playlist dedicated to these tales. My thanks goes to SteamRail Wanganui and Mark Seconi for permission to share some of their photos in this video. This video was thanks to the following channel patrons: Alex Goodman, GBH Train, Sean Tempest, Random Thomas Fan, Dark White 73, Andrew Dyack, Reese Lee Walter, Ryan RTS, Ewan Pentland, Steam Power 4472, Jude 72, Firewind 10, Luneacres Photography, Mario Sonic 64, Elias, TJOC 9891, Tamsy, Insane Edward, SB Track Tales, Eisenstag 04, and Henry Forrester.